Supreme Court hearing is underway. The Supreme Court hearing that is underway is on the appointment of a lady, the advocate l.Victoria Gowri. She's going to be taking oath as the additional judge of the Madras High Court on Tuesday. And as we've said, the Supreme Court has also set aside time to hear a petition challenging their recommendation to elevate her to the High Court. Now, my colleague Anusha is with us. She's bringing us details about what's taking place right now and the comments coming in from inside. Anusha, I believe we are going to be able to highlight for our audiences what the senior advocate Raju Ramachandran has had to say and how the Deputy D.Y. Chandrachud has responded. Do we have some clarity here? Oh, I believe it's Justice Gowri who's on the... Yes.
Let's put this into broad context here. Putting this into broad context for our viewers. These entire developments should be seen first in the context of the kind of standoff that we have seen between the centre and the judiciary over the key judicial appointments in the country, especially when it concerns to the High Court and the Supreme Court appointments. You are aware and our viewers are aware the kind of heated statements that have come in from the Law Minister and the backlash that has come in different ways and forms from the benches of the Supreme Court. Now, Justice Gowri's name was recommended by the Supreme Court Collegium for elevation. After that entire recommendation was made, there were protests that were witnessed at the bar by various lawyers arguing that her political affiliations and speeches of the judge who was set to be elevated after the recommendation of the court are such in nature that the judge should not be elevated, the lawyer should not be elevated to the position of a judge. Now, keeping that in mind, you have Mr. Raju Ramachandran, who is arguing before a Supreme Court bench that to have judges in this country with some kind of political affiliations and background is not a new concept. Justice Krishna Iyer, Justice Gowri himself, and many other judges in this country have come from political families and have political inclinations as well. That being said, that's being argued before the court of law. What we need to see is what kind of view really does the court take in this matter. Justice Gowri also goes on to say that the candidate is appointed as an additional judge. There are instances where people have not been confirmed. Why should we wait till that moment? Here it's not a case of political views. These are speeches of anti-constitutional framework. They are hate speeches. That is what Mr. Ramachandran is pointing out, and he was talking about a 1992 case where the appointment was quashed even after the president's warrant. Once a judge is confirmed by l.victoria, there are very limited grounds on which the appointment of a particular judge can be stopped, and that's what Mr. Raju Ramachandran is arguing, that mere political affiliations, political speeches are not ground enough for an elevation to be stalled in this manner.
Okay, I just want to ask you, Anusha, reports that have come in that she was a National General Secretary of the Bharatiya Mahila Morcha. A, do we have any confirmation on that? And B, something like that, where it's not simply political inclination or family background, it is concrete evidence of having worked for a political party in the past. Does that weigh differently?
Well, to be honest, there is no law per se that lays down that if you are for a political party, you can't be a judge in this country, right? There is no law, there is nowhere in the Constitution which is written. However, the articles pertaining to the elevation or appointment of judges at the Supreme Court and the High Court, even the additional judges lay down that a judge must have impeccable integrity. Now, impeccable integrity also means a person who can be seen to be free of political biases. Now, I may be from a political party and I may not have political biases when I'm a judge, but the mere thought in my head and my integrity is not important. That should also be affirmed to the people at large. So whenever appointments of this nature are made, the judge, particularly their personality in question, their background check, everything is conducted. And only once the court is certain that yes, the person has political affiliations or, family background in the past, but the person is of good integrity and has competence to be the judge, they can go ahead. There is no law that bars a person from becoming a judge just because you work for a political party. There have been judges in this country who have contested elections after retirement. So that's a very fascinating history we have. There is no, explicit bar in the Constitution.
And Anusha, right before we let you go, could you also just walk our audiences through what the usual process of the appointment of a judge looks like? I'm only asking about a specific aspect. That is the kind of research that goes into understanding the past experiences a person has had before they are appointed. What kind of research usually goes on there?
Well, everything. Your financial background, your college activities, what kind of political activities you've been a part of, what kind of views you've expressed in the public domain. Also, your family members, your immediate family members, the kind of business interests. Are they involved in any kind of activities that can be seen as not good for the interest of the nation? An IB check is conducted when it's an appointment to the High Court or the Supreme Court. A very detailed, thorough investigation is done. The Supreme Court Collegium itself takes a detailed feedback from the bar. So suppose there is somebody from the Delhi High Court who's a lawyer and is said to be elevated, then the opinion of the bar is going to be sought, the opinion of the government would be sought, the opinion of the Chief Justice at the High Court is sought. So while that procedure per se is not laid down, it is elaborated in the second judge's and the third judge's case, but there is a thorough background check which is done. And to reiterate the point that we were earlier talking about, having mere political affiliations does not bar you from becoming a judge. Yes, it can be a ground on which arguably a case can be built that you are not free from political biases and hence you can't be elevated to a bench. Let's see what the bench orders today as the hearing is underway.
Okay, and one more question for you, Anusha. We're sharing with our audiences that I think about 21 Madras High Court lawyers have raised objections to her elevation as a judge. Can you just bring us more context about how the drama is playing out on the Madras High Court circuit itself? 21 lawyers, for example, are these senior lawyers? Can you bring us more context?
So, at the Madras High Court, the bar is very active. It is known for its, social and activism. Madras bar has its own flavor and the kind of culture that exists there. Now, these protesting lawyers have said that in the past, the said honorable, lady, the judge who has the woman advocate who stepped for elevation, has made speeches in the past that show strong prejudices against the citizens on grounds of religion. The allegation is that she has allegedly indulged in making certain hate speeches against the minorities in the country, against Muslims and Christians. I reiterate at this point that these are allegations that have been made at the bar. Earlier speeches of the women advocates have been cited. These protest lawyers in the Madras are to the Chief Justice of India, the Collegium to reconsider their decisions. Petitions have been filed before the court challenging the decision. So what happens? I mean, all these objections that have been taken by the bar, I'm sure the Collegium must be apprised of them when they decided on the elevation. I would be extremely surprised if the Collegium decides to backtrack. As the hearing is under, senior lawyer Mr. Raju Ramachandran is arguing. It's a special bench that has been constituted. Let's see what the final call is really going to be. Ananya Bhatnagar, our legal correspondent, is reporting from inside the court.
Right.
And the court that I don't think we'll be in a position to face the question of eligibility. Secondly, we can't direct. The court has told Mr. Raju Ramachandran, as I was saying earlier, once a decision by the Collegium has been taken, it is very difficult to go back on it.
Anusha, the connection is slightly unclear. Do stay with us. We'll try to establish a stronger connection with you. As we do that, my colleague Ananya Bhatnagar, as Anusha was just informing us, is reporting to us updates from inside the court. Ananya, can you shed more light on what's been said in the last few minutes?
Well, definitely, there is exchange going on between senior advocate Raju Ramachandra, who is representing the petitioners, and also Justice Khanna and Justice B.R. Gowri, who is actually hearing this particular matter. However, the court is on the point that it is not a question of eligibility, but a question of suitability, which basically means that the judge, it's not a question whether the judge is eligible or not to become a judge, but then if at all she's suitable or not. And political ties, and there are a lot of people who were with political background. In fact, Justice B.R. Gowri said that he himself had certain political background, but then that has not come in the way of his judgments or when justice is being delivered by him. So this is being pointed out. In fact, now Justice Khanna has also said that assuming that the Collegium may not have taken all of these things into account, may not be an appropriate stand to take, is what Justice Khanna is saying. So basically, Justice Khanna is pointing out that, the Collegium had all of the material, and it would be wrong to say that the Collegium did not have this kind of information with them. In fact, it has also been stated by the court to Mr. Raju Ramachandran that in the process of this appointment, the consultee judges, the judges who are at the topmost part of the country and have been there, and the same High Court is their parent High Court, just like Justice M.M. Sudresh is one of the judges who was there from the Madras High Court. So he must have been consulted with regards to this particular appointment being made, and definitely these judges know these particular lawyers or judges who are appointed who are to be appointed at the topmost court of the country or somewhere or other. So here it is being said that those consulting judges were also consulted, and that's the reason why the information would have been there with the collegium. So definitely somewhere or the other it is being a downside for the petitioners here, and it seems that there would be no relief from the topmost court of the country to, in fact, these people in this particular case.
Let me just, Ananya, bring our audiences some examples. A few years ago, S. Ratnavel Pandian was the DMK's Tirunelveli district secretary before he became a Supreme Court judge. In a very similar example to Gowri's, who we are highlighting. All right, I'm going to stay silent for a second as we listen into this audio.
In the name of God, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established.
That I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India.
That I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India.
That I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment.
That I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment
perform the duties of my office without fear or favor.
Perform the duties of my office without fear or favor,
affection or ill will.
Affection or ill will.
And that
I
will uphold the Constitution and the laws.
And that I will uphold the Constitution and the laws.
That Victoria Gowri becoming a Madras High Court additional judge.
Sit down and do that. Madam?
Remember, the Supreme Court has just heard petitions against her appointment. Protesting lawyers have been referring to her BJP links. They've accused her of hate speech. Supporters have said she's a good lawyer, and other judges before have also had political links. The government yesterday cleared the appointment of Lekshmana Chandra Victoria Gowri, 49, as an additional judge of the Madras High Court. A recommendation by the Supreme Court Collegium for her appointment had led to protests by a section of lawyers in Tamil Nadu. They pointed out her previous association with the BJP and alleged instances of hate speech by her. Another group supported her, though. They talked about how hard she worked as a woman lawyer.
Now I read the warrant of appointment of
Gowri has been the Assistant Solicitor General based in Madurai, where there is a bench of the Madras High Court.
I, Draupadi Murmu, President of India, do hereby appoint Sri Pillaipakkam Bagu Kudumbi Balaji to be an additional judge of the Madras High Court.
Now let's go over to my colleague Anusha. Anusha, if you could provide us commentary as we watch Victoria Gowri being sworn in, please.
Well, those are very dramatic developments which are happening right now. You would know that the swearing in is happening at the Madras High Court while the hearing is underway at the Supreme Court of India. Once the swearing of a judge happens, the collegium, per se by their judicial or administrative orders, cannot take away the name of a judge who's already sworn in. This is an unprecedented situation, constitutionally. A scenario which we have not seen so often in the history of India. While a judge is being sworn in, there is a hearing which is happening in an open court, and the Supreme Court Collegium, their decisions, the manner in which it was taken, also the fact that certain speeches of the said judge are speeches which are anti-minority. That is what is being accused by the Madras High Court bar. All of those facts have now come into the public domain. So as we talk about this development, Toya, that on the one hand you have the judge who's being sworn in, on the other hand the Supreme Court hearing which is right now underway, it's a clear clash of institutions and collusion which is happening. Was the collegium not aware about the kind of speeches that the judge has already made? Despite those speeches coming on record, is there ground that the collegium can take back the recommendation? Once the swearing in has already happened, is there any authority that the collegium has when it comes to taking back those kind of names? Once a warrant of appointment has already been issued or a judge has already been sworn in, like in this case, what are the legal remedies that lie ahead? Clearly, these are unprecedented constitutional measures that will be taken if the Supreme Court decides that this elevation was not correct. But one thing is assured, that in the next few hours, you will see very interesting developments coming in from the Supreme Court, because a lot of questions are being raised that now the Supreme Court was hearing the matter. What was the hurry to ensure that the swearing in happened so early at the Madras High Court? I mean, in the sense that everybody was aware, the matter was listed, everybody knew that the court is going to hear it this morning. Couldn't the swearing in have been delayed? The fact that it was not delayed, it's something about the manner in which the High Court is functioning, the manner in which the Supreme Court Collegium and the coordination with the High Court is happening, and also the manner in which the Collegium took the decision. Was aware as to the kind of statements that the woman advocate has made in the public domain. All of those factors are wait and watch, Toya, and dramatic developments being reported from the Madras High Court.
You were giving us some context, Anusha, a little bit earlier about the Madras High Court. We were talking about some of the numbers. I believe 21 Madras High Court lawyers had raised objections, but at the same time, some 50 lawyers have also come out in her support from the Madurai Bar. Could you tell us more?
I lost your audio. Could you just repeat the question?
Yes, we were talking a little while earlier about both the kind of support and the kind of vociferous oppositions she's faced. 21 Madras High Court lawyers who'd raised objections, but at the same time, about 50, maybe more lawyers in the same circuit who'd come out in her support. They've said that there were many instances of lawyers with strong political views becoming judges earlier. Could you give us some context here, Anusha, historically speaking?
So yeah, as you rightly pointed out, there are lawyers who have questioned this appointment, and then there are others who are standing behind the judge. It doesn't appear to a naked eye or to an ordinary person who's outside the system, but judicial appointments in itself is a very political process in the sense of the term, that the kind of things which are at stake, the kind of lobbying that happens, the kind of support that you require, the manner in which you need to put forward your name, and the kind of support that you need at the bar and within the judicial corridors as well. It's a very political process in many ways. You require the right kind of contacts, you require the right kind of posturing. Now, when you go in the public domain, when you make certain statements which are perceived to be against Muslims and Christians, and I'm reiterating there that these are allegations that have been made against the woman advocate who is now being sworn as the judge, it becomes a very, very tricky issue. I must reiterate that it must surprise our viewers when these kind of protests are happening, people are coming in support and against. I want to take our viewers back to the case of Justice Karnan. Now, that is a very different case altogether, because Justice Karnan was somebody who had made certain very damaging remarks about the Supreme Court judges. He had, in fact, gone on record and passed certain orders against the Supreme Court itself. And then the Supreme Court bench had to sit against a sitting judge and pass orders against him. That was another point.
We are running out of time. Thank you. And I'm so sorry we had to interrupt as you were giving us that context. Dramatic visuals playing out right now. We're going to continue to cover this story. It is time right now for a short break, and with that we are at the end of the 10 a.m. breaking news show. Thank you so much for watching. Our next show starts right here in just a few minutes.